And continuing coverage of the breaking news we first brought you at 4, the Mississippi Supreme Court upholds the conviction of Carly Gregg.
3 on your side's Holly Emery joins us now to explain why the state's highest court just made that final. Holly?
Well, Howard, Courtney, and you remember the name Carly Gregg. That's the teenager who shot and killed her mother, a Northwest Rankin high school teacher, then shot her stepfather in 2024. Today, the Mississippi Supreme Court upheld her conviction. Gregg was convicted of murder, attempted murder, and evidence tampering. Her attorneys appealed to the Mississippi Supreme Court earlier this year, arguing that she was legally insane at the time of the shooting. Justices ruled that her actions afterwards, which included texting her stepfather from her mother's phone, hiding a security camera, and telling friends not to call 911, proved she understood what she was doing. The court found no errors in her trial. And with today's ruling, Gregg's concurrent life sentences will stand, and her options to challenge this conviction in state court are now closed. She does still have the ability to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Holly Emery, 3 on your side.